Hey everyone, Ryan here, or M&R Productions, and today we're going to be taking a look at every LEGO Star Wars set from the year 2009 and ranking them from the very worst set to the very best set. 2009 is a very nostalgic year for me because it's the year that I started making LEGO videos here on YouTube. As always, let me know in the comments why I'm a bad person for not liking the LEGO Star Wars set that you liked as a kid. And if you enjoy the Worst of First series, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss future episodes. Let's get into it with the worst 2009 LEGO Star Wars set. The Hyena Droid Bomber, my least favorite set, or what I think is the worst set of 2009. I've said this in other videos that this set has shown up in for a worst of first. It is ugly to me. I hate these large Vulture droid builds, and the minifigures do leave a little something to be desired, but I really love the rocket battle droids. They are awesome. It would have just been cool to get something else additional to that. It did have a pretty cool bomb dropping play function, but yeah, this set just doesn't hit the mark for me. I hate to say it, but after a lot of deliberation, the second worst set from 2009 for me is going to be the Assassin's Droid Battle Pack. This one, while a very good idea and a very cool build, the figures I just didn't care about that much. And when it comes to battle packs, that kind of matters. It was neat to get the Elite Assassin Droid in black, but the regular Assassin Droid to me is basically IG-88. And it just wasn't anything special for me to have a bunch of for an army. And as such, I ultimately only ever bought a few of these. For me, it's a cool battle pack, pretty much due to nostalgia nowadays, but ultimately the other 17 sets from 2009 are just better. I hate that this set is so low on the list, but the Count Dooku Solar Sailor is a beautiful set in some ways, but to me, it was too much money at the time, costing $55. I don't even want to know what that is adjusted for inflation, but I just remember 12-year-old me thinking, that's too much money, and then buying it anyway. The set included 2 Magna Guards, which is phenomenal, as well as a pilot for the Solar Sailor, but of course the star of the show would be Count Dooku, who could ride his speeder bike in and out of the Solar Sailor. It had this great system where you could open up the large canopy pieces on the back of the Solar Sailor to allow Count Dooku's speeder bike to be placed within the Solar Sailor or completely taken out and used as an actual speeder bike. It was really neat and something I really liked playing with. It had landing gear, which wasn't the best, but it did work. And as far as accuracy to the source material, the general look of the thing is pretty spot on. However, it's missing the fundamental feature of a Solar Sailor, the solar sail. It's just not there. It's something that obviously we can see in scenes from Star Wars Episode 2, and it's just completely missing from this set. I mean, I understand why. It would have been incredibly difficult to have look good or attached to the set in a way that made sense, where you could have it release or be put back into the ship or whatever, but ultimately, it's just missing. And so if I was going to find a reason to nitpick a set to put as the 17th best set versus a lot of the other really good sets that we have here, it's going to be that. The Separatus Shuttle is just better than Count Dooku's Solar Sailor to me. It's got Anaconda Far, it's got the blue pilot battle droid, 2 regular battle droids, and the beautiful Nute Gunray minifigure. 2009 Ryan loved the Nute Gunray figure, and I still do. There was just something special about getting a figure like that in a set like this to me. I don't know what it was, but something about the set I just always really loved. It's got a beautiful exterior design that's really spot on. There's only a couple of downsides to this set that I experienced when I was younger playing with it. The large fin on top of the shuttle is something that when you're swooshing it around can break off because it's not connected very strongly to the base of the ship, so that's an unfortunate side of it. And then the interior of this thing is a little bit lacking. Now, it was only $30 at the time, and it's a relatively small set, so I don't expect much from the interior of it. But if we're looking for reasons that this set shouldn't be higher than a lot of the other really great sets from 2009, then this is it. Its interior just kind of sucks. The battle droid that goes in the pilot area, he just holds on for dear life, I guess. And then the small area at the back for Nute Gunray, the doors actually opened really in a cool way where you twisted the thing on the side of the Separatus Shuttle and they both open simultaneously. It's kind of sick. But when you open those, you just get a small seat that slides out for Nute Gunray. It was really cool that it slid out, but yeah, small seat for Nute Gunray in there, and he can fit in, but yeah, there's just not too much going on with the Separatist Shuttle. Moving on, we have the Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. I think this one's even better than the 2016 model they made. I just like the look of this one better. I love what they did with this. They basically took the OG Darth Vader's TIE Fighter design in blue, made it gray, and made some small changes as far as adding in bricks with a little bit more curvature to make the set look a little bit more finished off and detailed. They've got some nice printed and stickered elements to add detail to the side of the wings and the top of the cockpit. The cockpit piece is that classic TIE Fighter cockpit piece, which it's just so beautiful to my eyes with the red studs at the bottom. There's something about it. It's just so classic. You did have some flick-fire missiles that were built into the ship as well that could be fired off by pushing on pieces on top of the TIE Fighter, so you didn't actually have to flick them, which is always nice. And the lone minifig in the set was Darth Vader. It's an interesting case for a LEGO Star Wars set, because if they were to make something like this nowadays, I could almost guarantee it would be Darth Vader, a Stormtrooper, and a Gonk Droid or something, right? Like, it wouldn't be just Darth Vader. But in 2009, it was just Darth Vader. And there's something about the simplicity of that I really like. A set that could have benefited from a minifigure but is great nonetheless is the midi-scale Millennium Falcon. $40 at the time I thought was a very good price, but ultimately these midi-scale sets didn't sell great at all. They only ever made one other one in 2010 with the Imperial Star Destroyer. That one also flopped and thus marked the end of the midi-scale line with just 2 sets. But this is a perfect representation of a Millennium Falcon at this scale. I mean, I did say it could benefit from a minifigure, but appealing more to the adult consumer would have really done this thing a lot of justice, and it's something that I think could really succeed in 2022, but in 2009 the market was just different. 13-year-old me thought that this set would have sold better with a minifigure, and I still think it would. However, I think even better in 2022 with the onslaught of 18+ adult sets is a display stand for a set like this. And so either way, I think the set was missing that something extra to take it over the top, but I still think it is one of the best small LEGO Star Wars display models you could ever buy. It is fantastic. The Pyrotech is a LEGO Star Wars set that I used to hate with a burning passion. I disliked it so much that I literally took it apart so that I could get 4 dark bluish gray 2x4s that were hiding inside the model. Ultimately, I've come around on it, in part because the Hondo Anaka figure is awesome. Turk Falso is just a funny name, and the Clone Wars Obi-Wan isn't a bad touch for the set, but the Pyrotech is just beautiful. It's a killer design with flick-fire missiles at the front of the ship, which most people aren't going to like that much, but those were kind of easy to fire off, I think. And then you had a couple of flick-fire missiles also located at the rear of the ship that had a little bit of an angle to them, so they were kind of cool. I also do really like the big cannon that they set up for Hondo. Thought that was sick. And perhaps the coolest play feature was hidden behind the sticker details in the midsection of the ship, where Turk Falso could be thrust out of the tank and into battle by pushing on a small button at the rear of the ship. It's a sick play feature. This is absolutely going to be the most controversial pick on my list, but not even cracking the top 10 at number 12 here is going to be the 8039 Venator playset. It only had 5 minifigs for $120. I feel strongly that clone sets should have a lot of clones, and this one I felt like didn't have a lot of clones. Now, I'll talk about the good things first because I'm going to slam it at the end of this. The Palpatine figure in this set was killer, and he had the Death Star plans, which was great too. The quadruple turrets on each side on top of the Venator are really sick looking to me. I also love the integrated handle for picking up the Venator. It's one of the best done integrated handles I think ever in a LEGO Star Wars set. It's also got a pretty neat bomb dropping function, and if you open up one of the side panels, you can show off a big cannon for your clone gunner. It also had a pretty cool escape pod built into the back of the ship. And you got Palpatine's office where you could have the Senate commandos guard him. But to me, this set really falls apart when it comes to its accuracy to the source material. It's just a fat Venator, man. It just is. The Venator's quite a bit skinnier than this, and I don't feel like this greatly represents what the Venator actually looks like. I think it's just one of those sets that people really love because it's the only version of it that exists. However, if LEGO were to remake this, especially as a UCS set today, it would blow this one out of the water, and I think it would give people a new perspective on how bad this is. I just don't love it as much as I used to, and I think there's better 2009 sets coming up. Next up, we have the Homon Mon Calamari Star Cruiser, a very unique looking set that did win the Toys R Us LEGO Star Wars fan vote back in the late 2000s. That included the Homon Mon Calamari Star Cruiser, a Slave One with Cloud City landing pad, and of course Palpatine's arrest. Now, because it did win that fan vote, it did have a red stripe on the bottom of the box, and it said Fans Choice Anniversary Edition, which was kind of a cool nod to the fans there in 2009. Not something that the LEGO Star Wars team would be willing to do now. Instead, they make careless errors on fan vote winner boxes. Anyway, back to the good old days in 2009, this set was split into 2 sections. You had the hangar with the A-Wing, and then you had the bridge with kind of the meeting area. So very obviously 2 separate areas of the Mon Calamari Star Cruiser. And so with that hangar area, we had a beautiful dark green A-Wing. It was the first time that LEGO did a non-red accented A-Wing, and I think they knocked it out of the park here. They basically took their 2006 design and made some subtle changes to it with some more modern pieces. And then using the crane within the hangar, you can actually remove the engine from the A-Wing. It's a really interesting part of the set to me. There's also a lever on the bottom of the hangar that you can move in and out and spin as you move it. So you can spin the A-Wing around and you can move it forward and backwards to have the crane have easy access to the back of it, or just to get the A-Wing out of the hangar, whichever way you want to play with it. Very cool stuff. Now, I did mention this set is in 2 sections, and you can literally take the 2 sections apart, which is awesome. And as we move to the much more sterile white environment, it's got this beautiful look for the meeting area where all the characters can gather around, and then for the bridge of the Star Cruiser, you can have the Mon Calamari characters sit in their seats, which are beautifully designed. And much like the A-Wing, but on a smaller scale here, you can move Admiral Akbar in and out and spin him around as well. It's kind of cool to see the same feature on a smaller scale for a figure versus the ship. Here we have the Ahsoka Starfighter and Vulture Droid set. This is a set that, when released, I did believe was overpriced at $40, and I still think it was too much money at the time for this set, considering that the year before they released Anakin's Jedi Starfighter standalone for just $20. So you're telling me that the Vulture Droid and 2 Buzz Droids are worth $20 extra, and I just don't believe that. I really did like this Vulture Droid, though. Unlike the Hyena Droid Bomber, I love this scale of Vulture Droid fighter-ish things. We also had a head that could be pulled up and away from the body a little bit, and the wings or appendages, I don't know what you call them for Vulture Droids, but they could move up and out so that they're more in the attack position, ready to fire at Ahsoka Starfighter. Ahsoka Starfighter didn't have a ton as far as features go. Usually there's something to do with like the astromech droid, but if you look on the back of the box, they just don't advertise anything of the sort. All you can really do with the Ahsoka Starfighter is shoot off some flick-fire missiles by pushing in on a button on the back. Not a whole lot. The 2009 TANF for $150 was a stellar deal. It included a couple of great minifigs with Captain Antilles and Princess Leia. On top of that, a regular Rebel Trooper, C-3PO, and R2-D2. Maybe leaving a bit to be desired, like a Bail Organa that would come 10 years later in 2019. But the ship itself was a beautiful both display and a fun play model. It didn't have a built-in handle that would come to exist in the 2019 model, so that was kind of a downside. But just the aesthetic of this thing is gorgeous, and the engines also look sick with the yellow thrust coming out of the back. There was a pair of somewhat hidden escape pods built into the ship, which was a great feature. You had a beautiful interior area with a very large desk, and as far as the area for the pilots goes, it actually used printed cockpit pieces, which made for a color mismatch between the whites, but it's an interesting thing to have that provides a great amount of detail very accurately to the front of the Tantive. Now, the other fun stuff about this, of course, is going to be the cannons on top and bottom, being able to spin 360 degrees. Really liked that as a play feature, but ultimately this set definitely lacked the refinement that the 2019 model ended up with. The 7749 Echo Base was the first ever LEGO Star Wars set with a Tauntaun, and it had 5 minifigs for $25, which was also very good, with 2 Snowtroopers, 2 Hoth Rebel Troopers, and Han Solo, of course, on that Tauntaun. I love this set so much. It is one of my favorite LEGO Star Wars sets ever. I really enjoyed the cannon that they had in this set, where you had the flick-fire missiles that could be pushed out from the back of the cannon. And perhaps even cooler, you could have a Rebel Trooper hide inside of the cannon and close it up and maybe have him surprise attack some snowtroopers. But the best feature of this set by far is the exploding feature for the Rebel Troopers when they're in their trench. You can just push down on a tile and make both of the Rebel Troopers fly off. And I always love the simplicity of the feature, yet it worked so well. Like, beautiful stuff there from the LEGO Star Wars design team on this particular set. I love the look of it. I love the box art for this set. I loved the price of this set. I think I just loved everything about it, and it's one of my favorite LEGO Star Wars sets ever, even though I don't think it's one of the best sets ever, if that makes sense. Moving on, we have the Republic Attack Shuttle, and it could fit 2 clones in the cockpit. Conveniently, there were 2 clones included, 1 regular clone trooper and a clone pilot, along with a Mace Windu minifigure. And it always blew my mind when I saw this ship actually show up in the Clone Wars and just how big the ship was compared to the characters, and that, like, Mace Windu could walk from the cockpit to the back section of the attack shuttle versus the actual Lego set, where they could just sit in the cockpit and it wasn't actually that big. So the Lego set was smaller than what the ship was in universe. Now, I don't know, this was the first time that I think I ever made that connection, just remembering back to 2009. Now, it had a really good look for display because they made a pretty accurate model. The landing gear was really simplistic. It was just two big white pieces that were attached to the bottom of the ship. No moving landing gear at all, but it worked perfectly. The wings could fold up and down easily. You had a nice interior space where you could sit Mace Windu, and there were actually bombs within the interior space that could be dropped down onto Christophsis or wherever you were taking on the battle droids. To me, the coolest feature was the M1 Grand-like flickfire missiles on top of the shuttle. You had, I think, 8 flickfire missiles that, as you push a piece in on the back of the shuttle, you could shoot them out continuously and just remove the magazine when done. I don't know, it's kind of sick. I love the feature. It didn't look great for display when you had the magazine in, so that's something you could always take out if you really wanted it to look perfect on display, but it's just got a nice charm to it. Summer of 2009 saw Anakins Ywing with Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, and R2-D2 as minifigures. This is a beautiful iteration of the Ywing design, one of my favorite ships in all of Star Wars. They had a very nice mix of Lego studs and tiles, but this one had more tiled than studded pieces, and I don't know, it just has such a clean look to me. It could fit all 3 figures pretty perfectly in the cockpit area. Ahsoka's head barely fitting in that bubble for the turret, but she fits, so it works. R2-D2, of course, exposed at the back where there's a small storage area that you could lift up. And then what I thought was the coolest part about this ship was underneath there is a big missile. On the back of the box, it does show to fire that big missile, you just have to push R2-D2 back. So a very interesting firing mechanism, but obviously I think the look of this set is what steals the show, not necessarily its features. Just the best design for Clone Wars Ywing, and part of me hopes they never try to remake this set and downsize it, because it just wouldn't hit the same. The Battle of Endor is one of the best LEGO Star Wars playsets ever. For only $100 at the time, you got 12 minifigs, and with those minifigs, you got an Ewok flyer, you had something to throw rocks at the ATST with. Yeah, that's right, you got an ATST included in the set, and it was a pretty nice looking ATST, kind of ahead of its time in my eyes, considering that just 2 years prior, they released a completely brick-built ATST, so this more Technic integrated ATST was just something completely different at the time. It did have the ability to have Chewbacca pop out of the top, of course. You had 2 speeder bikes with scout troopers, which was nice. And then the Endor base had some shrubbery on it to kind of hide it, I suppose. But it also had a nice imposing look with its gray walls that had a very slight angle to them that I thought always looked very good. Now, the panels on the walls could come off a little bit easier than you might want, but it's also part of the functionality of the set because you'll see these 2 big domes kind of pushed up on top of the Endor bunker there, and when you push down on those, it's like it's blowing up the bunker because it blows the panels off the side of the bunker. So it's a give and take there. It's a nice play feature, but it's also something that's annoying when you go to move the set and they fall off. The interior of the bunker had some nice detail too, but to me it was nothing crazy. The best feature was the ability to open and close the doors at the front of the bunker with the turning of the knob there. Everything was kind of on rails, so it was easy to open and close. I still think this is one of the most fun LEGO Star Wars playsets of all time, and it's something that I hope they do a remake of soon. At number 4, we have the Corporate Alliance Tank Droid. This is the set that introduced jetpacks for clone troopers, and that was so special at the time to me. I thought it was so amazing to get jetpacks on these Clone Wars clone troopers. They looked phenomenal. And something a lot of people might not know about this set is it actually did include a small extra build that allowed you to make the jetpack troopers fly at the Corporate Alliance Tank Droid by hitting it really hard on the table, and basically like a seesaw would make them fly up into the air. It was really cool. As for the Separatist side of things, though, you did get the 2 battle droids, but the tank droid itself is just a great model. Just perfect color choice to me with the gray and the black, unlike the 2005 model, which was a little bit all over the place color-wise. I really like the yellow eyes for this model too. I think they really pop, and this model just kind of kept it simple. You couldn't pull up the side panel to put a pilot in or anything. It was just a Corporate Alliance tank droid with some flick fire missiles on the side, and it looked dope. And those big dish pieces were also printed. The detail there is just impressive for a $25 set. So one of my favorites from 2009 for sure. And that brings us to what I think is the 3rd best set from 2009, the 8014 Clone Walker Battle Pack. And now this set was good for obvious reasons. One, it had a nice walker. It wasn't something that looked bad in mass when you bought a bunch of battle packs. It was also something that you, and many people at the time did, modify into other other things relatively easily and built lots of cool stuff. Like, one of those fun things about early LEGO YouTube to me. Now, as far as minifigs go, this set did introduce the Clone Gunner that we would later see in the Venator in the summer of 2009 that we already talked about. And depending on how you looked at it, it included 2 or 3 regular clone troopers. Now, it does have that clone commander in black armor, but adding the armor on was optional. So you could have 3 completely regular Phase 1 Clone Wars clones out of this battle pack to build your army with, which was a phenomenal thing, and it's what I and many others did at the time when they bought more than one of these things, is you would build maybe one commander to have with your army video, and then you'd throw the rest of the armor into a pile because you just wanted regular clones. It was kind of the best of both worlds here. I loved that. This is an all-time great LEGO Star Wars battle pack, and it's something I talk more about in my worst to first LEGO Star Wars battle packs video. I'll link that at the end screen. Now, I did debate quite a bit whether or not to put the AAT above the Clone Walker battle pack or not, but ultimately, I think this AAT is perfect, and it's got great figures, and I just felt like as a $50 set, it really nailed everything you would want. It had 3 at the time brand new rocket arm battle droids. They were exclusive to this set as well at the time, that made it a little bit more special. It was very dope to get 3 of them in one set. You also got a pair of regular battle droids, and on top of that, you got 1 regular clone trooper, and new at the time as well, the Clone Wars Yoda with like the rubberized head. Very unique, very kind of funny looking to some people, but Clone Wars Yoda nonetheless. And the AAT, it should go without saying, looks gorgeous. It's got a great color scheme. Dark gray, light gray, dark blue, and blue. Just a great 4-piece for your colors there. It had some sticker details that helped pull the model together. It's something that the 2020 model was really missing. They have the proper striping up the center of the model. I think my least favorite part of this set is the flick-fire missiles on the side, because they didn't really stay up the best. They would get a little bit saggy, but more importantly, they just, I don't know, they could... I'm very precise with the way I want things when I display them, and it's really hard to get those to stay precisely straight sometimes, but the flick-fire missiles were still kind of a cool function. The main cannon on top of this thing is something that's actually imposing, but also not comically large like it is in the 2020 version of the AAT. And then something that's like super underrated about this is that hidden within the back of the AAT is actually a maintenance cart, and so you can take your other battle droid and have him man this maintenance cart, and so when the AAT is like in use, you could just have the battle droid in there like he's piloting or helping pilot the AAT, and then when the AAT is parked or something, you can have the maintenance cart come out and zoom around and take on Yoda and the clone trooper, or whatever you want to do. Like, a lot of fun play there, but also a very nice display piece, very accurate model, like just everything you could want from a LEGO Star Wars set, I think, here. And that leaves us with 1 set left from 2009, and if you know anything about LEGO Star Wars from 2009, you probably know what's left. The 10195 Republic Dropship with ATOT. This is the ultimate white whale for a lot of LEGO Star Wars collectors. It is something that in recent years, of course, when it released in 2009, released for $250, and shout out to my grandma for buying it for me for my birthday in 2009. If I were to say anything bad about the set, it would be the minifigures. There is only 8 minifigs, and you could make the argument that the set does include like 16 seats, so like, why not have a nearly full assortment of clone troopers? I know the battle pack existed, but you could make the argument. It had a pair of pilots and then 6 clone troopers to fill in those seats, and those seats were in a great color. That dark green color was beautiful for the inside of that ATOT, and that ATOT, much like the Venator that we talked a little bit about earlier, did include a carrying handle, and with that carrying handle, you actually could attach the ATOT to the dropship. What a concept! And so the dropship had a rather complex mechanism on the bottom of it, where you kind of push back this yellow piece and it locks into place, and then you line up the dropship and plop it down onto the ATOT in the right spot so that the Lego Technic piece will like go through the hole of the handle, and then it can lift up the ATOT. The dropship itself also had a carrying handle built into the top of it that is pretty seamless. It looks really, really good. And it made carrying this heavy LEGO Star Wars model relatively easy for 13, 14-year-old me. It did have dual quad flick-fire missile shooters, and when I say quad flick-fire missile shooters, it shot all 4 at once. When you push in to shoot off your flick-fire missiles, they all shoot at the same time, and that was something that was really sick about this playset. And something else that's kind of underrated about this, something they don't really do with LEGO Star Wars or LEGO often at all, is that they included 2 different sets of stickers for the side paneling on the dropship. ship. You could either have it be this really cool looking Wappa with its mouth open, or you could have it be the severed head of a battle droid being held up by a clone arm with some text in Arabesh, which I don't know what it says. Please comment below if you can translate. Inside of that paneling, though, was a stack of flickfire missiles as well, so you could reload your dropship when needed. Kind of cool. My least favorite part about the ATOT is certainly the ramp on the back of the ship. It's something that feels kind of half-baked to me. The angle of the thing is just kind of absurd. Whenever you drop it down, it's at like a 70-degree angle, and it just makes no sense that clone troopers could walk up this ramp. It's nice that it's there for like the imaginative play, but it's not something that actually makes sense during play, so it always kind of threw me off. But yeah, it's there, which is nice, but it just doesn't, it could used to be a little bit longer so you wouldn't have such a steep incline. For me, though, the Republic Dropship with ATOT is one of the best LEGO Star Wars sets of all time, and it's certainly the best set of 2009. If you enjoyed, as always, please make sure you flick that like button. 2009, flick fire missiles, get it? Got it? Oh yeah, I went there.